Hey, discerning listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, the single life, tell all, let's watch.
I don't see where he's working towards any goals. I just didn't see it, and I was like, if it keeps going that way, it's not gonna last.
You know, I'm such a free spirit, people don't even fucking understand me.
And that works for somebody else, but not for my daughter.
I know.
It just doesn't work for her.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Good, I thought that was gonna escalate, but Syngin, so mom was saying that Syngin kept talking about goals, but ultimately never followed through. And that was the deal breaker for Tania. Okay. And then Syngin, got a little tone, used the F word. People don't effing understand how much of a free spirit I am. I thought it was going to escalate, but the mom decided not to do it. She's like, yeah, I get that, but that's not for Tania. So yeah, it was a good exchange there. And then Syngin calms down and said, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Hey, Syngin, why were you going to California on that flight?
I was gonna go have some fun at the beach.
Well, his rent was due and needed money and waiting on
For one
money.
day. Wow.
But why?
Because I don't give a fuck.
You had to ask to borrow money to do it.
Okay, so, depending on your lifestyle, I'm guessing you're going to fall on either side of this argument. I think it's fine either way, as long as everyone's honest. So I guess if there is a ding, it would be that Syngin wasn't completely honest with Tania about, and by the way, I'm actually paying for a trip, so I know this is kind of stupid of me to ask you for money when I'm spending money on an airline ticket to go to California, but I just need it for one day. It's all I need it for. I'll give you the money back. And it sounds like he did pay the money. It sounds like there's also taxes that he didn't pay her, so it sounds like he still owes her money. But so the mom at first was like, well, I'm thinking that Tania has given Syngin money, and that's between the two of them, and I thought that was a pretty good attitude. And so Syngin was asking for money. It sounds like he had money coming in. He's like, I just need a little bit of money to pay rent, and then I'll pay you right back as soon as I get the money coming in. But he didn't tell Tania that he was flying. And then Tania is like, look, I'm willing to bail you out, or I'm willing to help if you're in dire need, but if you're already spending discretionary funds on a plane ticket and then shirking your responsibility for your rent, even if the money was coming in, it's like there should be, I'm not going to give you money. Essentially, I'm giving you money so you can go on a trip. That's essentially what's happening here. And I don't want to do that, which is totally fine. I mean, if Tania doesn't want to give him any money, that's totally fine. It's her decision to make. So this is perhaps a microcosm of their relationship, right? Where Syngin is it's hard for him to plan for the future, and he makes irresponsible choices. I'm just thinking for myself, if I had rent coming up and I had an airline ticket, I would try to get my money back from the airline ticket so I could pay my rent. It's like, look, it's not worth it. What if I can't pay rent? Or I wouldn't book a flight if I had so little discretion. If I didn't have rent, anyway, it's just me. Syngin is a different sort of a person, and it's fine that he wants to be that way, but he has to live with the consequences, like not being able to pay his rent and being evicted. We don't know what kind of emotional pressure he's putting on Tania. Again, he lied by omission, which isn't cool. So, then Syngin gets defensive, so he's being criticized, and he's like, I don't give an F. It's like, well, that's an interesting. It'd be one thing if he said, look, I only needed money for a day. And yeah, was it a little irresponsible? Sure. But I really wanted to go on this trip, and I just need money for a day. What's the big deal? I have money coming in. I'm not completely irresponsible. Some sort of defensiveness like that, but just like, I don't give an F. Well, but you borrowed money, and you lied by omission. That's not giving an F. That's being hurtful and unfair.
Syngin, who were you meeting in California?
I'm not saying anything about all those things.
Tania, do you know who he was meeting?
No. But the whole thing is, if it was just a friend or just a guy, you would have been like, oh, just a guy friend. But instead, you were seeing someone else, and you still hit up me, and that's what hurt the most.
Yeah. I get that. But I also, again, if you're in Syngin shoes, I don't like his attitude, but you just moved, you're in another country. I certainly would never do things like this myself. Even when I was young, I wouldn't have done stuff like this. But he, is like what if, I guess the question is, what if Tania had said no? What would he have done? Would he have yelled at her and been hostile, or would he have just been like, okay, well, I guess I'm just not going to pay rent, and then he just lives with the consequence? I'm curious as to what that is, and we'd have to ask Tania, what do you think he would have done if you would have said no? Because he can live his life how he wants to live, and certainly he can go to California and date someone. They're separated. They both can date other people. He's been dating other people. But I get Tania, it's like the lying by omission, right? Like you're telling me that you're having a really hard time with rent, but in reality, you could have paid rent, but instead you decided to go on this trip to meet a woman that you're dating, and you're not telling. I feel used. You can have, and if you're Syngin, you should be able to intuit that and get out ahead of that by being fully disclosing to Tania, and so Tania can make a choice along those lines. And then all this makes me wonder if behind the scenes, Syngin had this callousness around his irresponsibility, where he's just like, look, I'm a free spirit, whatever, when it's like, well, okay, you can be a free spirit, but it doesn't entitle you to hurt other people's feelings and not tell the truth.
Whoa, wait, so you asked to borrow money so you could go to California to see another woman?
Yeah. No, it was to pay his rent.
Money to go, like, you guys don't get it.
I offered to call and pay like the rent directly, and he said, no, just put it in the account, and I refused.
Good girl.
It's not my fault you're fucking looking wherever I'm going, so I don't know.
Yikes. Syngin is not looking good here. It's a pretty ugly look, really. The hostility and I don't give it, what's the big deal? It's obvious. Everyone in the room, I'm guessing most of the audience, sees what's going on. And for you to be in denial of, like, again, if he just said something like, yeah, I probably should have told her, I had money coming in, it wasn't like I'm a complete irresponsible, jerk face, but I just needed a little money, and yeah, I probably should have told her. And I don't want to tell her about my dating life because I don't want to hurt her feelings. I care about Tania, and I just don't want to hurt her feelings. And I'm still financially kind of dependent on her a little bit, which doesn't make me feel great, but I plan on getting on my own 2 feet, but it hasn't been that long. So, if he said something like that, but this attitude of just like, what's going on? You get off my back. I don't understand. Like, what?
It's the timing.
I needed $2,000 for one day, bro.
Yeah, but it's the timing.
That was it is. I knew I should have fucking never did that.
Apologize to her.
Oh, I have so many times. I've given, like, everything is cool already.
Yeah. So I wonder if he just feels attacked or triggered by the mom being there, because I think him and the mom have a volatile relationship. The mom certainly is keeping it together, and I think being pretty fair. So, because I think Syngin's better than this, and I don't know what's happening with him right now. Shame, I'm guessing.
No, you haven't. You've never apologized for that day. You've justified it so many times.
I've never apologized for that day? Are you serious right now? Yo, I have come to you so many times and say how fucking embarrassed I'm feeling about doing this. How vulnerable I feel about
That's not a sorry.
Asking my oh my God, okay.
Just go apologize.
I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, shame. So he's saying, how many times how bad I felt and how embarrassed I felt and how ashamed I felt about asking you for money? Okay, good. Yeah, that's good. And when we feel ashamed, it's hard for us to apologize. The individuals who never apologize are the most ashamed, usually. So he's having a hard time. So it's good to hear that behind the scenes he recognized the weight of what he was doing. He was asking for his ex-partner for money, and he felt bad about that, and he expressed that. He didn't say, I'm sorry. He didn't apologize, but he did. It sounds like he essentially was acknowledging the situation.
Have children? Did you want children in your past relationship?
That was one of the mainest things in our relationship, why we actually split it up, She expressed that, she's ready for children, But right now, this is one thing that I cannot commit to at the moment.
Why do you always say right now?
I'm not ready.
Yeah. So good on Tania. She's like, oh, she's pretty. And then we hear it's not as bad as it was when Syngin and Tania were first dating, because Syngin was, if I remember right, essentially indicating that he did want to have kids eventually, maybe just not right now, but I guess so. Maybe he is saying that again. Instead of saying, look, there's a chance I'm not going to ever want kids, and I guess since this is a date, you probably should know that. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I'll change my mind. I'm at a stage in my life where I definitely don't want kids now, but I'm kind of a random person, so I could imagine in 5-10 years things changing, but I don't want to make any promises. Something like that. Instead of, I can't commit to having kids right now. If you tell someone who likes you the way Tania liked him, they're going to interpret that in a way that preserves the relationship. And that's why whenever you say something that is along those lines, that is very important that the other person really grasp what you're saying, that you account for the fact that they might be seeing things through rose-colored glasses. So you really have to say something essentially, and we also have to know yourself well, because the other possibility is Syngin was younger or trying to adjust his needs and wants because he knew what Tania wanted to hear, and he didn't want her to leave him, and so he just convinced himself. Denial is a powerful concept, so it's hard to know where he was. If we would have really pulled him aside, said, Syngin, answer this question honestly. We won't tell anyone around. Do you want kids? What is it? Give us the full paragraph on it, because it's a complicated thing. Some people are like, I want kids now, and so there's just a one sentence description. But if you're in Syngin's world, it's more of a description, right? So he's saying that again to her, and Tania's like, why do you always say right now? Like, it's never. In the end, back and forth after years of us in a relationship, in the end, it was never. That was what was concluded. So why do you caveat it, and why do you soften it so much? That's what diluted, that's what gave me the delusion that you wanted to have kids soon, when it's clear you don't.
I was doing all of that.
I really appreciate you.
Ever since I've been single, it's been a bit tough road, but now I feel happiness and so much confidence coming back. And now I know I totally made the right choice by leaving Tania. I'll see you next time.
Yes.
My future looks bright. I'm just like a feather in the wind, babe.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was wise that Tania watched these clips. It's too soon. It's too raw for her. Maybe in a few years she could watch this. But, just think about all of us. You break up with someone, particularly someone you're married to, and you have to watch them go on a date and then watch them talk about how elated they are that they're no longer with you. That's why people block each other on social media. It's like, you don't want to see that. And sometimes, a lot of times, that's the wisest thing. So I don't know why Tania's being subjected to this right now. This can't be good for her.
Kind of wanting to be open, but I think it's very quick. And I feel like I don't want you to start having these, create a pattern or bad habit. You met me, you were open to the universe, and it didn't end too well.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe make sure, I want you to be so happy, and I really feel like you need to focus on yourself and getting yourself really together. You can say you are, but you're not.
So she's still doing the codependent thing, and it's not terrible, and he obviously is pretty distant from her, but that urge to teach him and to guide him and to fix his problems. I get it. When I look at Syngin and I was his friend, I don't know if I would comment on this, because it's like he just says he wants to be open to the universe. I don't think there's anything pathological about that. But Syngin, I think, has some issues that would be probably a lot clearer if you were close to him. So I get it, but it just is another example of the behavior and the compulsion that I've been talking about with Tania, that probably resulted from the way she was raised, the role she had in the family, where safety and her entitlement and her worth is based on really laser focus paying attention to other people's problems and forcefully trying to, without asking for consent for advice, unsolicited advice is the codependence behavior.
Maybe you're not.
I also enjoy not being all together.
I wish he was as open to Tanya's advice as he is to the universe.
That's all. She means well by giving you that advice. Thank you, Stephanie. That was well said.
So I don't know if Tania is codependent in terms of a personality, but I'll say that, yeah, a lot of codependent people mean well and are often right about things. It's the unsolicited part of it that is annoying. It's the assumption that you don't understand and that you're wrong. Syngin is going to live his life, and he is entitled to live his life. He's entitled to make his own mistakes, as long as he doesn't harm other people and as long as he's honest with people. And I think he relatively is honest with people, I think. And he's entitled to his life. And so he's a grown man. He knows what's going to happen. He understands how bills work and how evictions work and rent. And, he understands it. And he will live that life. And if it's not responsible, to your standards, that's okay, but that's your standards, and he's going to live by different standards, and that he's entitled to that. So anyway, I'll tell you that if I had a Syngin in my personal life, I'd be annoyed. If I was married to a Syngin, I'd be really annoyed. But I would hope that at least at the end of the day, I'd be able to say, well, he's entitled to live his life the way that he wants to live it. It's just not the way I want to live it. And so I'm going to tell him how it impacts me, but I'm not going to give him unsolicited advice.
I just want to know, Tania, did Syngin say to you he never wanted kids?
Yeah, he said, I know for sure I do not want kids.
Right, and he told me that.
Okay, that's interesting because I don't think we heard that much of a definitive statement on the show. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the way he was talking eventually. Now, I'm guessing what they're going to get at is, you lied to me. And he might have. But there's also a possibility that he was different when he first met Tania. That he was like, well, I don't know, maybe. And, maybe soon. Who knows? I'm open to that. But then as the reality started to really set in for him, he's like, no, maybe not. Or he went into denial about it, which is an subconscious process, and convinced himself, because he didn't want to lose Tania, that, yeah, maybe I will be up for kids. All of us do that. So let's see what happens.
In 3-4 years, Syngin finds someone new and happens to get her pregnant.
I think a part of me is going to feel like, damn, why couldn't he do it with me? And then I'm going to feel happy because I do think he'd be a great father. I feel like he'd be an amazing father.
Oh, that's really great of Tania. Yeah, good. I mean, other cast members would not be able to admit that on television, and that's the mature, reasonable response of I think especially in her state right now, she'd be like, oh, it kind of hurts. It's like, why couldn't it have been with me? Why did you do it with this other person? That's what I was always asking for. On the other hand, I really care about him, and I wish him well, and I would be happy for him. And so I'd have a mixture of feelings. Yeah, that's really, really tender. And from the beginning, I've liked the two of them. I've seen both of their issues and how they clash. Overfunctioners fit very well with underfunctioners, right? I've talked about that, but they had times where they could actually apologize, and then they'd have times with massive conflict, and so it's just really impressive to see Tania be so vulnerable and human in this moment.
I know how badly you want to be a mother as well. You seek that, and I just hope that wherever you meet next, he's a lot better than me. He travels more, he has more money than me, he's better looking, he's stronger.
A lot more money than you.
And he gives you 7 children.
Yeah, brings a tear to my eye. It's great. Think about all the other cast members on the show and how I didn't even show the Jennifer and Tim, Jesse, Veronica fight, because those kinds of things, it's like, what do I say? Oh, people are being jerks to each other. All right. So just contrast Tim and Jennifer's conversation, because they're no longer together, with this. Because there's a part of both of them that's hurt, and there's an impulse to be hostile or to shut down or to be defensive. And they're not doing that. And it's, truly a marvel to see. It's so contrasting with what we normally see on this show. It's really, and that I've been saying essentially a version of this throughout my journey with the two of them. And I thank y'all for asking me to follow them, to go back in time and watch their story. I mean, it reminds me of Asuelu and Kalani, similar overfunction, underfunction. I think there's more of a dichotomy there, more of a contrast, but their journey and how they were able to push past the difficult times and stay together. And this couple didn't, but through it all, able to look at themselves, especially this couple, and be vulnerable and be caring and because we see that care begets care and hostility begets hostility. If Tim was nicer to Jennifer, would that have made Jennifer be nice to Tim? I'm guessing so, and vice versa. Tania's being very nice to Syngin, and then Syngin reciprocates and says, yeah, I wish you find someone that's better than me that wants to have kids. I really hope that for you. And so when and this, I guess what we can pull away from is that when we're going through a breakup, that there's several Y's in the road, and we can go down the hostile defensive route, or we can go down the constructive route. And there's not a lot of incentive, right? Because you're breaking up with them. But there's a lot that can be preserved, a friendship, or at least a cordial relationship. The preservation of the narrative that you didn't make a total mistake dating, because given how they're doing this, particularly for Tania, I think, she can walk away from this relationship saying, well, he's a great guy and I'm a good person. And we just had a couple, pretty big incompatibilities that were aggravants to us from the very beginning. And it just wasn't meant to be. And I really loved him, and it's still a part of me likes him, and I wish him the best, and he wishes me the best, and we'll be friends. And when I have kids, I'll tell him about it. And when he gets married or something, he'll tell me about it, and I'll be happy, and that'll be bittersweet. But I'm, I'm not a complete idiot for falling in love with him, and I can trust other people. I just need him just with a couple tweaks to his personality. Whereas if you have a total train wreck of a breakup, then you're like, what's wrong with me? Why did I even date that person? I can't trust other people. Look, it very easily could have gone down that road. And it has to do with perspective, and it has to do with behavior. It has to do with systems. All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.